All right, let's dive into one of the oldest puzzles in economics, a question that, on the surface, seems to completely defy common sense. But stick with me here, because once you get the answer, you're going to see value and price in a whole new way. So, here is the core of the mystery. Thinkers like Adam Smith called this the paradox of value. On one hand, you've got water. We literally cannot live without it. And on the other, you have diamonds, which are, let's be honest, mostly just shiny rocks. So why is one basically free while the other costs a fortune? Yeah, when you lay it out like this, the contradiction is pretty stark, right? High usefulness, low price. Low usefulness, high price. It just doesn't seem to add up. To solve this, we need to bring in a really fundamental concept from economics. So how in the world do economists even try to measure something as subjective as happiness or satisfaction? Well, it's not as complicated as it sounds, and it all boils down to one key idea. They call this utility. Just think of it like a satisfaction score. Economists even made up this pretend unit called a util, just so they had a way to talk about how much happiness we get from something, whether that's, eating a slice of pizza or buying a new phone. Now, this is the real hero of our story, marginal utility. The key word here is marginal, which in economics speak just means the next one or the additional one. So we're not talking about your total happiness, we're focused on the extra bit of happiness you get from just one more. And honestly, that little distinction makes all the difference. It's not about how much you love pizza in general, it's about how much you're going to enjoy that next slice. This one idea is the key that unlocks the entire paradox. So this extra happiness we're talking about, how does it actually work? Well, it follows a very predictable and very human pattern that economists actually call a law. Okay, imagine you're just dying of thirst. That first cup of Coca-Cola is amazing. Let's give it 8 of our utils of satisfaction. The second one, it's still pretty good, but not as good, right? Maybe 6 utils. By the time you get to the 5th cup, you're full. It adds 0 extra happiness. And that 6th cup, you might actually feel worse. That's negative marginal utility. And what we just described? That's it. That's the law of diminishing marginal utility. It's a fundamental principle of how we're wired. The first bite of a cookie is always the best. The first time you hear a great new song, it's the most exciting. With every repetition, that extra bit of pleasure just goes down. Now, look at how these two curves play together. It's really interesting. Your total happiness, that's the top curve. It keeps going up as long as the extra happiness is positive. But see where that top curve peaks? It's at the exact moment where the marginal utility of the next one hits 0. After that point, having more actually makes you less happy overall. Okay, so we've got this idea down. Our satisfaction for each extra thing we consume goes down. But, life isn't free. We have to make choices about how to spend our limited money. So how does that factor in? I mean, this is the question we're all answering, probably without even realizing it, every single day. With only so much money in your wallet, do you buy another coffee, or do you save that money for a movie ticket? How do you make that best possible choice? And the answer is surprisingly simple. We're all wired to instinctively think about getting the most bang for our buck. It's not just about which thing will make you happier, but which one gives you the most happiness for the money you spend on it. Now, of course, economists have a fancy name for this, the Utility Maximization Rule. And yeah, that formula might look a little scary, I know, but all it's really saying is that you're at your happiest point when the last dollar you spent on, say, coffee, gives you the exact same bang for your buck as the last dollar you spent on movies. So here's how it works in practice. If you've got a budget, you'd start by spending your very first dollar on whatever gives you the most happiness per dollar. Then, because that satisfaction goes down, you'd reevaluate for your second dollar and then your third and so on until you're out of cash. You're constantly shifting your spending to chase that best bang for your buck. All right, we've got our tools, utility, marginal utility, bang for your buck. Let's go back and finally crack this diamond water paradox. And here it is, the whole solution, laid out right in front of us. The total utility of water is massive. It literally keeps us alive. But because water is everywhere, the marginal utility, the value of one more glass, is incredibly low. We've already got plenty. Diamonds, though, low total utility. They're not that useful. But because they are so incredibly rare, the marginal utility of getting just one more is sky high. And that is the key. The whole thing. It turns out the paradox was never really a paradox to begin with. We don't pay for the total usefulness of something. We pay based on the value of the next available unit. We pay for its marginal utility, which is all about scarcity. But wait, this is so much bigger than just solving some old dusty puzzle. This one concept, diminishing marginal utility, is actually the psychological reason behind one of the most important ideas in all of economics. I mean, think about it for a second. Why do we buy fewer slices of pizza when the price goes up? It's because at that higher price, fewer slices meet our bang for your buck rule. We stop buying sooner because the low marginal utility of that third or fourth slice just isn't worth the high price anymore. So remember that downward sloping curve we looked at a minute ago? The one that shows our satisfaction declining with just one more? Well, it turns out it's way more important than you might think. Because, and this is the biggest reveal of all, that curve is the demand curve. The line that shows how much stuff we're willing to buy at different prices is a direct reflection of our own diminishing satisfaction. Our personal psychology literally creates the laws of the market. How cool is that? So, let's just quickly wrap this all up. It all starts with a simple human truth. The more you have, the less you want the next one. This means that prices are driven by the value of that next marginal unit, not its total usefulness. We all make choices by trying to maximize our satisfaction per dollar, and this very behavior is what creates the demand curve you see in every single economics textbook. It's a really powerful way of looking at the world, right? It applies to everything from your morning coffee to your biggest life decisions. So the real question I have for you is, now that you know the secret, where are you going to find your next best bang for your buck?